I'm Benita Benjamin. I'm a research scholar in the Institute of English, Kerala University. My research is on the modernities initiated through television with respect to Malayalam soap operas. And going directly into the topic of discussion today, Sashi sir has already given a very critical and comprehensive trajectory of screen cultures in Kerala. And I would like to respond to it through the insights drawn from my research. As a point of departure, let me revisit Sashi sir's observation about the accumulation of spectacles and the tyranny of algorithms to create a post-truth era. This spectral explosion of images and its consequent implications in the viewer's negotiations with the immediate reality around them is of interest to me as a researcher of cultural studies. While the soft power of these images cannot be negated, I was wondering if it has also opened new space of dissent and critique, if it initiated new space of dialogue between the images and the viewer who would bring the baggage of their experienced reality for making sense of what is represented on the screen. So is it possible for us to look at this encounter as something more than ideological penetration or indoctrination? Can we look at this encounter between the screen and the viewer as a critical negotiation that has dialectical possibilities as well? As a young researcher who is still in the process of discovering the disruptive freedom that cultural studies provides, the challenge and delight of cultural studies is its ability to slide past fixed meanings and interpretations. This has, in a way, animated my engagements with television, which is, as already mentioned, which is a medium that is always already in flux as a transition from community halls to mobile screens. As Sashi sir has already pointed out, these techno-social shifts had political, economic, and cultural implications. It is also interesting to look at television's ability to embody and mediate the changing epistemes in its ability to represent the varying cultural topography of the region, even as a medium attunes itself to the changing screen cultures. Considered thus, television and the narratives about and disseminated through television becomes an archive. It becomes an archive of the dominant ideologies and the structures of feeling prevalent at any given point in time, not only through the discursive reproduction of these thought structures in various mediatic representations, but also through its narrative lapses, through its conscious and unconscious desire to brush off certain concerns. While it remains that television or any visual or digital platform for that matter functions as a medium that archives the social and political tendencies of a society, it becomes imperative to delve into questions like what constitutes the socially and politically relevant at any given point in time? How are these categories negotiated by the viewing public? What is the symbolic relevance of these representations? How is the viewing subject conceived through various representations? And how was the resistance to these representations documented or acknowledged? It is at this point that cultural studies and its attempts to defamiliarize the everyday cease to be a depoliticized endeavor. That is when it tries to spell out the vying discourses that insinuate the socio-cultural discontents or the field of influences, the locus of which is the triune of the subject, viewer, and the consumer. This viewing subject, who is also a political being, is a source of my argument. To go back to Sashi sir's observation, these media revolutions have initiated new forms of technologically mediated capitalism. But has it also opened new media publics and new socialities where the media representations itself, among many other things, are actively contested? In such a context, the study of Malayalam soap operas or the study of any kind of popular culture, for instance, or any media representation becomes a political endeavor in that it charts not only the way in which the consumer viewer is interpellated by the text, but it also documents and negotiations undertaken by the agential viewer in reading one's subjective interpretations into the text. Even as a study reflects commodity fetishism, it also sheds light on the agential role of the viewer through the increasing media paranoia over TRP ratings. So can we attribute certain potentialities to this viewing subject when they are interconnected with the visual images or representations in a relation of mutual constitutiveness? And as critics like John Fisk or Charlotte Brunston and Tanya Motlesky, who lean more towards the Birmingham School of Thought, have already pointed out, the viewer is not a mere non-agential consumer who passively and irredeemably absorbs the images on the screen. But this viewer is also an agential subject who may or may not occupy the subject positions offered by the text. So can we say that this accumulation of spectacles generates polysemic possibilities as well? Or situating the viewing subject within a web of competing media narratives, is it possible to look at this explosion of images as the conniving attempts of desperate media industries to convince an active media skeptic viewing subject? Or in the context of soap opera studies, is it possible to theorize a viewing subject as an active agent who brings their distinct situated knowledges, to use Donna Haraway's words, or certain feminine competencies to the viewing space to construct what is called alternate socialities? Given this, it becomes important for the study of media economies to consider the historical conditions of viewing. What are the socio-economic and domestic hierarchies that mediated and controlled the viewing subject's engagements with television or any media genre for that matter? Here, to borrow David Morley's assertion, cultural studies investment in the micro-histories of viewing and its consequent association with the and its attempts to challenge dichotomies like macro, micro, or real and trivial, public and private, or masculine and feminine. This challenge also widens the scope and significance of what counts as a political. Within such more inclusive spaces of the political, cultural studies would allow more freedom to archive what is called the ordinary, to explore the political economies of the everyday, and to multiply and unsettle textual paradigms. Thank you.